Hello and welcome to the LFC transfer room. My name's Tino. I'm delighted to be joined by two beautiful people today, Matty and Kev. It was a good night. It was a good night last night. A very convincing win in the end. As someone who unfortunately missed the entirety of the first half live because I was at work. It was nice to come into a second half and be shown off and to really look this season and Liverpool to prove this season what we can actually do. And for once to turn up to a game and for me not to walk away from a match thinking or being frustrated and being annoyed and being disappointed. So it was a very good performance. We'll get into the nitty gritty of it shortly. But Matty, how's it going? Enjoyed the game last night?
Yeah, it was good. It's one game where I probably would have got the prediction right because I usually give outlandish predictions, but it was good to see us look like back to our best now. And I've seen loads of people today on social media saying, "Oh, we've only beat a team in Scotland," but going into the Manchester City game on Sunday, scoring 7 goals and like Mo getting a hat-trick, Bobby getting 2. It's the confidence the players need. And even like Jota 3 assists for Salah when he came on. That's probably the fastest hat-trick of assists as well as Salah getting the fastest hat-trick in the Champions League. So all positives for me really going into that City game. And part of me thinks that we'll win them.
Oh, very nice. I love the confidence. I do love the confidence. Kev, how's it going? Are you looking forward to the City game now after that performance?
I'll be honest, I'm totally with Matty. I'm looking and cherishing this game on Sunday more before even after the Arsenal defeat. I said bring it on straight away. Don't underestimate us, honestly. Wow. How about you, mate? We all good?
I'm not as confident. I think I've said it once before. Well, maybe a couple of times before. I'm a very negative person when it comes to Liverpool Football Club. I try and be as positive as I can, but I am absolutely papping myself for the game of the weekend. It's a huge game, given how disappointing I'd say our season has been so far, and with the injuries we've now got out. I am slightly worried, but the performance against Rangers was a very good performance overall, and the 7 goals will really just boost our confidence massively. I don't think there's a better time to play Manchester City this season. Really, I don't think I'd have looked at any of the results so far this season and gone, yes, I'm on it. Maybe the Bournemouth game, but then again, it's only Bournemouth. So I'm looking forward to the game, but I am very, very nervous. It is very nice to see a lot of the regulars in here. Jen, very nice to see you. Anthony, Helio as well. Very nice to see you. If you're enjoying the content that we provide on a daily basis, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you drop a like on the videos and on the streams as well. And be sure to follow the LFC Transfer Room on social media. The links to that will be down in the description below. But we'll jump right in. We'll jump right into it. The conceding early was the first goal. Matty conceding early against Rangers. You sat there thinking, brilliant. Off to another game this season. Conceded early. Another disappointing performance. Were you, when we did concede early, were you instantly in that mindset, or were you always confident we'd bring it back?
Always confident that we'd bring it back. I have been every game this season. I know we haven't brought it back more often than not, but Liverpool in my whole life have never done things the easy way. And this season, the fact that we've went down 1 in every game, apart from Bournemouth, I think it's just typical Liverpool, to be fair. You expect that from Liverpool now this season, but it's to show the character to come back and win, not only like win by a small margin, to win comfortably. It shows the character within the team, and loads of people always say that. I think it was actually Rio Ferdinand on BT afterwards. Yes, he said like so many people are writing this Liverpool side off, but we're not that far away. We've been ramaged by injuries again this year. to our midfield, which was already weak. But we're not that far away. I mean, we've only got, I think, 4 or 5 games to get through before the break for the World Cup. So that's just 4 or 5 games till the window. We have to start looking towards the window, really. And I do think we'll bring someone in the midfield position early doors, and then all the problems will be sorted. Like, I think De Bruyne done an interview as well and said that he's got no worry that Liverpool won't come back and be fighting again by the end of the season. I mean, last season, wasn't we like 12, 13 points off the top going into the new year? And by the time, if we were to win every game now until the World Cup, hypothetically, we'll be like 12, 13 points going off the top going into the new year again. Last year, we reached all 4 finals. I remember being on streams at like December time last year, saying Liverpool will win it all this year. And you had like Jack and that saying to me, absolutely no way. And I still fight the corner. I always will, because it's still mathematically possible that Liverpool can go on and win this Premier League. Arsenal won't sustain this all season. And City, as they shown in Copenhagen, without Haaland, where are the goals coming from? Because they got rid of Jesus and stuff. Now, Haaland's rumoured to have a muscle injury, surprise, surprise, going into this game. Like he always does, do you know what I mean? The only benefit to them with Haaland is he's not going to the World Cup, so he will have that rest. But Haaland, what hit City are literally an injury from Haaland from not being probably able to demolish teams like they are. Yeah, they would possessionally, but the goals are coming from Haaland. So you take him out, then Warren, he's a player who does get injured, and anyone who can sit and say, "Oh, the league's done" and stuff, it's like, what's the point in watching it if you don't think we're going to win it?
Yeah, that's a really key point. Kev, do you are you along the same lines as Matty? Do you think it is very early on in this season so far? There's still a hell of a lot of games to go. Despite the disappointing start to the season, we'll come good eventually, and we'll get it right, and it'll just click.
Yeah, absolutely. We, as a fan base, go from one extreme to the other. It's either too good or it's too bad, and we don't have nothing in the middle. There's no medium. There's nothing from our fan base on social media that will show me any difference. There's a few who I go the game with, and probably you, Matty, as well, who are straight. No. This is it. But to others, we're deemed as though we're really positive. It's not. It's just that this is what we know what's going to happen. We dissect the game far too much, especially early doors. If it's not going right, then something's drastically wrong. Now, the only issue we've got an issue at the minute with people not playing to the level of game due to how we've peaked and how we see them when they play. They're having a little bit of a hangover. There's something going on that we can't get our hands on, and there's not one single thing we can we can point to as an issue, because there's loads of issues. And as James said the other night, there's also a mental issue going on as well as with certain players as well. So there's a lot of things going on that makes it a complex issue. But I have no doubt already. I'm still with Matty, and I say it in work with lads who support United, Chelsea, and City. Until it's mathematically impossible for us to win the league, anything's possible, and everything is possible, and anything is doable at this present moment in time. I think we always have a knee-jerk reaction as fans that we get frustrated, and we haven't seen this happen to Liverpool for quite some time, probably before Klopp came in. If we're being truly honest, because when he first came in and we were inconsistent, it was mainly down to him not having the players there. He has the starting 11 he wants. It's just that if for whatever reason the backups we've got aren't actually coming on and utilising their actual time and providing us with the impetus to carry on. It's important and integral we get that back. But I totally agree with Matty. I can't see Arsenal doing a 12, 15 straight win progression from now until, say, February or March. I can't see it. There's only 2 teams that are consistent in this league, and that's Liverpool and Man City. And it's not as bad as what people think. It is at the minute. If you look at it, you look at the minutes per goal ratio of Salah, of Firmino, of Nunes, it's still top draw. 8 goals, 4 assists for Salah and for Firmino. You've got 5 assists for Jota, even though he hasn't scored. It's just we need to be a little bit more compact in defence. But it's far too early to start making predictions as to what's going on. We're in an important part of the season, and I keep reiterating about it. You've got a World Cup where peak players are playing. That's the first time we're having a World Cup at that time. These players are going to be coming back. We'll see what happens, but every team's going to struggle with injuries. Haaland's going to be struggling with injuries. City are going to get them. Just because they haven't got them now doesn't mean to say it's game over. But for me, I'm totally in Matty's corner with this. Do you know what I mean? So, I think it's ridiculous as a fan. As I keep saying, we're either one or the other. We're too far negative or we're too far positive. There's nothing in the medium for me, and that's where we should be at the minute.
I think that's just social media fans in general, and it's all reactionary. I think that's a large portion of it. I am certainly one of those reactionary fans. We win, I'm like, we're the best team in the world. We lose, and I'm like, we're getting relegated. So I am certainly one of those fans. So I'm going to apologize to you guys personally right now. I'll try to be better. It was a very good performance. And yes, the start to the season hasn't been great, but this is something that we can start to push on from this. We can use this as a stepping stone, go into that Manchester City game, hopefully get a result, whether it's a win or a draw. I'd be happy with either. And it is going to be a long season. It is still very, very early on. I will jump back to the game against Rangers specifically. There's a couple of players that we will talk about, including the man in the title, Roberto Firmino. But we'll save that just for a little bit later. Another player who I thought played phenomenally well last night was Harvey Elliott, Matty. He seems to have this a bit of a bromance really with Salah. You saw them together when there was waiting for him to see if VAR would get his goal. He's done really well this season so far in different positions in the midfield on that right-hand side, a bit more attacking. Do you think at this stage we are putting maybe a bit too much pressure on him to perform, given some of the disappointing performances so far by some of the front three in midfield so far this season?
Yeah, because I don't think Harvey Elliott's as good as people make him out to be honest.
Whoa! Hold up a second. No,
he's a good player. No, he's a good player, but people are thinking he's going to be some generational talent, and he's not. He really isn't. Like he's a very, very, very good player, and he definitely deserves to be starting and stuff at the moment. But he's not. People seem to think that Harvey Elliott's going to be the answer to all of our problems, and he's not. He really isn't. Like when he plays, yeah, he has some phenomenal moments. He has some good moments, but then he also has some painfully bad moments. And he is still a kid. And I feel like the best example on how to nurture a kid into the first team is like what Pep's done with Phil Foden. So 3 years ago, everyone was saying to Pep, "You need to be starting Foden every week. You need to be doing this," and he didn't. And now Phil Foden is starting every week and is world class. You need to nurture the minutes more, really. Like with Harvey Elliott, it just seems like we're relying too much on some kid. He'll end up getting burnt out and not living up to the potential, which he probably could achieve. We need to manage his minutes more. And yeah, he was great against Rangers. Yeah, he's had some great games this season. He's had some poor games as well. But I don't think that instantly, I don't think he starts on Sunday. He should be nowhere near the start 11 on Sunday because you need to manage his minutes more, to be honest with you. And Harvey Elliott will only be as good as Liverpool want him to be. And by putting all this pressure on him, starting him all the time, he's not going to get to that. Like genuinely, the master plan to get the best out of Harvey Elliott is doing like what Pep done with Phil Foden. Because look how good Phil Foden is when everyone has been saying for years Phil Foden should be starting week in, week out for City, and he never has. It's about finding his best position, nurturing into each position. And with Salah, I like that. Salah's very close with Curtis Jones as well. And I like that he's taking these youngsters under his wing and nurturing them and stuff because he's a model professional, really. Mo Salah looks after himself. And if he's taking the likes of Elliott and Jones and Carvalho and stuff under his wing, it's only going to benefit them in the longevities of their career. But I wouldn't put all this pressure on Harvey Elliott, because everyone seems to think he's some world-class generational talent, and I don't think he is, to be honest. I'm more excited about Fabio Carvalho than Harvey Elliott, I'll be truthful.
Wow, that is it's seemingly agreed by quite a few members of the chat. Anthony commenting saying he needs to stop playing in his average. Evidently, we've got some agreement. I do think he's a phenomenal player, and yes, he hasn't played that well in certain games, but he's also really stood out. I do think Matty makes a really good point, Kev, about it's about managing the minutes, isn't it? It's about playing them in the right games at the right time and not burning them out. We talked about when Trent First, we've talked about a few times when Trent First came in, it was very much the same. There was a lot of pressure to throw on him, especially when he started having a couple of good games. And even when he started playing poorly, I remember there was a game against United that he early on that he got ripped to shreds. Trent. So it's about playing them in the right games and making sure you don't burn them out too quickly. It's a very, very good point to make. Are you in agreement with myself and Matty and that, Kev?
Absolutely. I'm also in agreement that last night was probably Harvey Elliott's best game for Liverpool this season. Playing a little bit higher up, not having the defensive mentality that's been expected on him. He's done all right in those positions, but he's done, for me, as I've mentioned before, and the stat came out the day after to prove it, is that he is good on the eye in that position. He'll look for the ball out and he'll look to play the ball forward. However, defensively, he is not of that mindset, and he's not willing. His tackling isn't up to what you'd expect for someone who's playing in that position. That's not against the lad himself. That's just he's been put in. It's basically a round hole in a square with a square peg. We're trying to adapt him and to try and bring his game on a bit. But I think he played higher last night. He relished the actual opportunity, as he always does every time he comes in, and he gives 100%. It's too early to be saying what he's going to be expecting or what his potential is going to be. But we need to, as Matty said, nurture it to the point where I totally agree. He doesn't start for me. He comes off on the bench if we need him to. But I wouldn't be starting him. I think that's the position he played last night. That's where we should be focusing and relying on him to be playing and learning off the likes of Salah and also Bobby as well to start looking at how to create his that type of his game even further than what it is. If he starts creating more, then his potential goes up even higher. So at the minute, he's not at a ceiling, but the sky's the limit as to where he wants to go. But that's only down to, as Matty said, and to yourself, that's down to playing him in the right position and focusing and bringing players around him who can evolve him even more than what he already is. Being around Mo will evolve him, and it's certainly around Bobby Firmino as well, because then he'll start getting the tactical side of his technical ability better as well. But no, I agree. He needs, same with Carvalho. I hate to be on here now because I'm agreeing with what Matty's saying, but I was at the start of the season happy made up at seeing Fabio playing and seeing what we can do with him. He's found it difficult at times, and he grew in the game last night, which was good. Instead of bringing him off at half time, we kept with him, and he grew in the game and got his confidence up, and he needed that. But no, I'm quite happy with who we've got at the minute, but Harvey doesn't start for me. He needs to be playing in that higher up position for me.
Yeah. I'm going to put this question to both Matty and Kev, but with Harvey Elliott, with Carvalho, do you think the switch in formation has benefited them? Do you think? I'll go to you, Matty, first. Do you think long term their futures are more higher up? I know Kev briefly mentioned it, the pitch, rather than in that midfield, thought specifically in relation to Harvey Elliott. His phone's ringing, so I'll throw this question to Kev. With his position in the team, Harvey Elliott higher up would benefit in the change in formation, whether it's a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2 or whatever the formation you want to call it. The benefit going forward, Kev, do you think that'll
Matty's
benefit?
back now.
Is he? Oh, fair enough. I'll
On
throw
call.
the question back to Matty then. I'll try for a second time. Harvey Elliott and his position is the general gist of the question. Higher up the pitch in the midfield, where do you see him in the long term ending up?
If he improves, like what Kev said, his defensive abilities, I wish I was, Jen, I'm on call tonight. If he improves his defensive abilities, then he could play in a central midfield role. But based off what he is now, I do think the new formation will benefit Carvalho and Elliott, because more so Carvalho, he was a 10 at Fulham. So in this new 4-2-3-1, I mean, people say 4-4-2, but it's definitely 4-2-3-1. I'm married, Haley. But I do think it'll benefit them, more so Carvalho, because he can play in that 10. I think he'll be exciting behind Darwin Núñez. I mean, that doesn't mean I want Bobby to go, which we'll go on to later. But and the same with Elliott, I think he'll be really good in the 10 as well. However, when Salah came on last night and Elliott did drop into that right side of the front four, that's when I felt he was playing his best football for us last night, when Salah came on up top. So I think Elliott needs to improve his defensive ability. I can see him being more of a central midfielder long term if he improves his defensive ability, because I don't think he's got the pace to be a winger for us, really. And maybe a 10 would be perfect for him. But then, like I said before, I've got more hopes for Carvalho, and I think I just see something in him that reminds me a little bit like Coutinho. So I feel like I don't want Carvalho's minutes to be hampered. So if both of them are going to get rotated in the 10, then that's exciting. But I do think Klopp probably sees Elliott more as a central midfielder. But I do think that he needs to improve his defensive ability if he wants to be a central midfielder, even though you could argue the position he plays, if he's got two pivots behind him, he doesn't need to defend much. I just want my central midfielders to be able to do everything. I don't know if that's because I grew up with Steven Gerrard, who could do everything, but you don't want a central midfielder who can't throw a tackle in. Like, central midfield wins you the games, and at the minute, Elliott can't really put a foot in, and that's the only thing that worries me. And he is probably a bit too slow to be a right winger as well. So probably the 10. In answer to your question, I'd see Elliott more as a 10, but then I see Carvalho as a 10, so it's a bit interesting.
Yeah, it certainly is to try and fit these guys in. Kev, I would say, are you in agreement? But I feel like you're going to agree based on how this stream so far has gone.
I hate to be, but honestly, there's nothing I can be negative about. Unfortunately, it's exactly what my mindset. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? But the problem I've got with Elliott at the minute in midfield is he's not, and it backs up what Matty said. He's not dominant in that position at the minute. He looks very tentative and is very, very naive in his position and where and what he's doing in the game. For me, that personally comes out in his defensive mindset and how he tackle. I'll bring it up again. The Palace game, where Eze gets through, that press that he puts on is just ridiculous. And I was fuming after that game. I was annoyed that he was allowed to get through as easy as he did. There'll be other examples that you could use. It's not having a go at him. It's just if Klopp does see it in there, then he needs to get to be more dominant in there and be able to make those tackles, as Matty said. Carvalho just excites me. I think he could play anywhere across that front three, behind Núñez for me. And he's more adaptable and there's more to his game that you could utilise, even if we had injuries with certain players. For me, at the minute, Carvalho needs to build on his confidence, because at the minute, it looks a bit, during the Everton game, it looked as though it broke him starting the game. But that's not saying that it's anything on him. It's just the fact that he's come into a better team than where he was at. And we're asking questions of him that we wouldn't really be asking of a young player this early on in his career. But due to the way we are at the minute and lack of numbers, we are relying on certain players to set up. He played well second half last night, Carvalho, and we saw what could be potentially where he should be. But as I say, I see Carvalho more as someone as a backup for Firmino more than Elliott, me at the minute.
Yeah, yes, that's a really key point. One thing that I will transition slightly onto in relation to last night is the rotation. The rotation last night, I think, will benefit us with the Manchester City game. We've talked about a lot on stream with regards to how reliant in that midfield we are on Thiago, how heavy in general we rely on certain players within that squad, or at least have done this season. Matty, do you think the rotation last night will certainly help us? Do you think anybody from that midfield or midfield onwards, so midfield and forward line, would deserve to keep their position in the starting 11 for the weekend game?
I think you'll see. I think Jota was meant to start though, wasn't he? We pulled up a little bit in the warm up, so I think he'll come in and start. I think Salah will get his space back again, but I think Klopp played a blinder by dropping him and showing him that he can be dropped, and that has helped, I think. But I think the midfield double pivot against City should be for no one else other than Fabinho and Thiago. And Jordan Henderson should be the last used substitute to come and see the game out, because that is what he should be now. And I will stick on this hill for the whole season. Like, Hendo yesterday wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. And I think if we're playing a double pivot against City, our strongest double pivot has to be Thiago and Fabinho. It just has to be. And when they both came on last night, they were phenomenal. Thiago, I absolutely adore watching that man. It's a pleasure to watch him in a red shirt, to be honest with you. I haven't felt like that probably since like Xavi Alonso, someone who just oozes class on the ball. And against City, it has to be Fabinho and Thiago. The back four, I'd stay the same. I really rate Canate. I rate Matip as well. And I wouldn't, like I said on the stream last night, I wouldn't be not against City, but in other fixtures, seeing Matip and Canate just to give Verge a little bit of a rest, because I feel like there's so much pressure on his shoulders as always, but he probably could do with a bit of a rest. When in terms of the attackers, Núñez has to start against City. I think he was a menace against them in the Community Shield. And in this new formation, he's scored 2 goals in 2 games. He's actually scored 2 goals in his only 3 starts for Liverpool. I think people seem to forget that his other minutes have came off the bench when in his start he's performed well. So I'd keep Núñez starting. I'd 100% Bobby's irreplaceable at the moment. He's the most informed striker. He has to start. But I do think Salah and Jota will come in for Carvalho and Elliott, and I do think Thiago will start instead of Henderson against City. And if Henderson's in that starting 11, then I am going to probably be worried come kickoff.
Wow. Well, Kev, Matty mentioned someone who is certainly in the title of this stream, so we'll transition onto that now. Bobby Firmino, the most informed player within our squad, striker within our squad. He's, as much as within that forward line, there's been a lot of change, a lot of rotation as a result of injury, players getting suspended. Bobby Firmino's he's playing like it's his final season with the club, which it technically is because he hasn't signed a new deal yet. But do you think Bobby is trying to prove to Jurgen Klopp and FSG that I'm the guy, irrespective of whether fans and the club have dropped off recently over the last couple of years? I'm the guy, I can show up consistently, and I deserve to stay at Liverpool Football Club. This
is Bobby's last dance. This is his final season at Liverpool for me, I think. He's 31. We need to get out of this idea of being too loyal to our players. And we need to be a little bit more ruthless. This is why we're in the predicament that we have been at the start of the season, and everyone frustrated with our midfield because we haven't refreshed it. Got the 3rd oldest team in the league. It's showing. I'd like to keep Bobby. Don't get me wrong. It would be great, but it comes with caveats. It comes with him spending time with the youngsters. His game time will be minimal, and he'll only come in as he has done well, is when we're in a bit of a crisis, as we say. He has done really well at the start of the season. He's actually shown a few people and has turned back the clock in certain games this season where we've actually seen a smile on his face, and it's the old Bobby of 18, 24 months ago. It's unbelievable what he's doing at the minute, but let's not get carried away. This is his last dance, and it comes with caveats for me for him to stay. Otherwise, thanks for your time, Bobby. See you later.
Wow. Very, very straight to the point. Matty, I absolutely adore Bobby. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think if he consistently puts in the performances that he does, I think it's a no-brainer to keep him. Where do you stand on the Bobby Firmino new contract?
Yesterday and this season, seeing Bobby be Bobby again, he's a player who many of the new generation of fans would have fell in love with football watching him. Like when I was growing up, I fell in love with football watching you like see Torres's and stuff. So Bobby's probably made a lot of younger fans fall in love with football, and he's been great to Liverpool. And if you would have asked me this before Kev, I would have been saying give him the deal, but he makes a point. Like, how many times have we sat on stream and everyone's saying, our issue is Klopp's too loyal. He keeps giving older players new contracts. It's not working. Bobby could be phenomenal this season, but then next season could drop off again, and everyone will be sitting here going, why did we give him a new contract? We're paying him 200 grand a week and he's performing like that. Like people were saying last year, if you would have asked our fan base 6-7 weeks ago, should we give Bobby a new deal? They'd all say no. There's people saying we should have sold him to Juventus last summer. Yeah, he's been unbelievable, but I get what Kev means in a sense of we have got an old squad, and us not being ruthless with players is showing. The only thing I probably would keep Bobby for one more year, just so Elliot and Carvalho can learn how. Because let's be serious, that role that Bobby does, that false 9 role, 10 role, there's nobody in world football who can do it as good as Bobby. When Bobby's at it, Liverpool are at it. Back in the day, if Bobby had a bad game, Liverpool had a bad game. He's like the controller of the team. And I do feel like one season, especially with the World Cup in December, isn't enough for the next generation to learn that role. So I would probably give him one more year. Not like Hendo with a 3-year contract at 31. I'd probably give Bobby one more year just purely for the benefit of your Carvalhos and stuff coming in to learn that role a bit more. Because I wouldn't like to see him go for nothing. Even if you give him a 2-year deal and sell him after a year, so you still get some money for him. Because someone in this world would still pay 15-20 mil for Roberto Firmino, I think, especially if he's in the form that he's in. But I probably would give him a new deal purely just for the benefit of Carvalho and stuff. But like Kev said, we do need to stop being so loyal to these players. If like Bobby has had 2 poor seasons, yeah, he's had 2 injury-ridden seasons, but if we were to give him a new deal and he drops off again next year, everyone's going to be screaming from the rooftops that we've given this player a new deal who's past it. The same with Mane. Everyone says, oh, how much Liverpool are missing Mane. You go and ask some Bayern Munich fans, they're gutted they bought him. He hasn't been setting the world alight in the Bundesliga. Bayern Munich are sitting 4th. Do you know what I mean? He hasn't come into that league and set the world alight. Yeah, he scored a few goals, but Nagelsmann started him up front and he was really disappointing, and he actually got dropped for 3 games. They started him on the left yesterday, and yeah, he scored, but they weren't playing a very high caliber of opponent. Like Sadio Mane is one of the best players I've seen play for Liverpool, but I think we sold him at the right time as well, because if you look at his performances at Bayern, they haven't been amazing, and the standard of opposition in that league's not as good as the Prem.
No, that's certainly true. As I said, I adore Bobby. He's certainly proven his worth to Liverpool Football Club over the years. I'm kind of in the boat of giving him a new deal. At the very least, as you mentioned, maybe 2-year deal, sell him after a year. My worry is we let Bobby go on a free transfer. There's nobody else in that squad currently who can do the role that he does. and it makes us, to a certain extent, very one-dimensional up front. You've got Salah and Diaz or Jota, and then you've got Nunes as a centre forward. I think we'd be foolish, if I'm being brutally honest, to put ourselves in that position if we don't try and, at the very least, maybe January, or maybe planning now specifically who we're targeting to bring him in. Helio has just mentioned in the chat, Bobby this season, 12 games, 8 goals, 4 assists, which is a very, very good output. He is I think the loyalty issue is a very key point. We saw it with Henderson, a 3-year deal at 31, and it just doesn't make sense. It seemed like it was very much, he's the captain, we've got to give him a new deal. Jurgen Klopp said give him a new deal. And it from the fans' perspective, or at least performance-wise, he didn't put in the performances that I think a lot of fans felt warranted a new deal. Whereas for me, Bobby Firmino this season has put in performances that warrant a new deal, which I think is the difference. And I don't know. I think Albert makes a very good point in relation to Benzema, Modric, world-class players who are 30 odd plus. Kev, where do you see Bobby Firmino in relation to the age factor? Is that a key factor in the decision to get rid, in your opinion?
If you look at Klopp, we play different formations the way Madrid do. We rely on high pressing and a high attitude and 100 miles an hour. The older you get, and you've seen it already this season, we're already 10 miles or 10 kilometers off any team this season that we're playing against. So it doesn't. It goes against the physics of a player that once you get 30, you're past it. I agree. Certain positions you can get away with it. With Bobby, you probably would be able to get away with playing him because he'll be solely playing that number 10 role, and he doesn't come back. He won't have to be getting back as much. My thing we've got is that we are certainly seeing at the minute a thing that every manager we've had going back to Bill Shankly has had, where we get to a point and we've been too loyal with players, and then we are forced to go in and sort things out. Wolverhampton 1970 FA Cup game, we go away, we get beat 3-0. Ian St. John, Callahan, and all them are all then on the transfer list and gone. We do it. There's numerous of times where we've stayed loyal. I'm not saying that 31 is at that point, but we do need to start looking and refreshing this team. And we're going into an uncertain waters with Klopp, because this will be the first time he's actually got doing this with an actual team. Last time he nearly got to do it. Dortmund got rid of him and then came out afterwards and said, you know what, we should have got rid of the players, not the manager. So this is one thing we need to get out of as fans. It's great what he's doing at the minute, and he's showing and he's banging in form at the minute. My argument is, does he score those goals and get those assists if we didn't have the injury crisis that we've had? Because I don't think he'd be playing as much as what he would been doing this season, based if we had everyone playing. So, and look at the teams that we're playing against. We've scored 9 against Bournemouth, and we scored 7 against a team that is ranked probably in my books out of the top 100 of Champions League football ranking teams. So let's not get carried away of what he's doing at the minute. But for me, we need to utilize him at the minute, and without him, we wouldn't be in a position where we are, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. He's doing wonderfully well, but this is his last dance for me. If he goes on a freak, fair enough. Otherwise, what's the point? Are we going to do this every time everyone gets to 30 who's played well for us over the years, and we look back in history and go, oh well, he won us the 4 trophies, we'll give him another contract? We need to get away from that kind of mindset and start looking for the future. We're building with the future with the likes of what Matty's probably seeing through Ben Doak, who's playing in the Champions League. There's other players, Besetic as well. There's young players coming through that we need to be utilising. We shouldn't be relying on a transfer window. We should be relying on an academy. That's the likes of what Real Madrid and Barcelona have focused on, and that's what Ajax as well. That's what brings them in. We need to be utilising that a little bit more. Chelsea have got a fantastic academy and got great players, and you can see that around the world of certain players. A certain AC Milan centre-half who I think should be playing for England, even though I'm not an England fan. It's things like this that we need to be getting into. We shouldn't be relying on a transfer window to cause our problems. We should be relying on an academy and relying on those players and the grassroots players that are coming in and utilising them to the most of what we can. We need to do this, but unfortunately, I'll keep spitting. Sorry, Anthony. But that's what we need to do. We need to get away from this being too loyal. We are too loyal. We're too much of a loyal club because we want to be that family club that everyone comes to. But you have to be ruthless with your family at times. You're not going to get on with everyone. There's always going to be a dark one in the family that you need to go, look, I've had enough of you. See you later. This is what we need to do. It's a business. It's about getting 3 points at the end of the day, and it's great that Bobby's doing it. We're utilising him in his best position, but at the minute, I rant over. Sorry.
I just like to reiterate the sentiment from Jen. Kev certainly is the best. Completely agree
Definitely
with you there. If you want to hear more of Kev ranting, make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the LFC Transfer Room YouTube channel. All of the social media links will be down in the description below. We are going to end this here. A bit of a smaller stream time-wise tonight. But if you have any other content or any other questions or any other content that you want us to cover over the coming weeks, make sure you follow us on social media and drop us a message on Twitter and Instagram and such, and we'll certainly get that content. We have plenty of more content coming up for you over the next couple of days, especially looking ahead to that Manchester City game with the match preview. So if you enjoyed it, make sure you drop a like, and of course, hopefully we'll get a result against Manchester City coming up at the weekend, and we'll see you next time.